Welcome to this session, which is titled, Are You Ready to Harness the Power of Your Future AI Systems? As you can see, there are several of us here. It's a joint session that we have organized with Microsoft and EY. I'm Lazaros Polymenakos. I am the EMEA AI consulting leader for EY. We have Dr. Amir Grifa from EY also here.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm AI team leader for financial services at EY Belgium.
And Bernadette Westorp.
Yeah, my name is Bernadette Westorp from the Netherlands and leading responsible AI in FSO.
We have Mary Jo also from
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Yeah. So my name is Mary Jo, and I work as I manage the data science portfolio, the learning portfolio at Microsoft.
And Gabriel.
Hi, so my name is Gabriella. I am part of our global black belt team, specifically for EMEA, and we focus on everything AI.
Okay. And so let's move on. So there are some questions if you have to go to Vivox to answer.
Yeah. If you can please go to Vivox and we will open the poll. You cannot see it over here.
So these questions are to get us to know us better, basically, as they say. You heard about us, now we are hearing about you.
Answers are still coming. $37. So rich.
Should we close?
Yeah. I believe we are set. So let's close the poll and see.
Okay. So what did we get? Financial services.
There's
all right.
bias.
And consulting. Okay. We have government, we have retail, energy, media and technology. What and other? Okay. Technology. Very good. So all sectors pretty much are represented.
No, can we? Can you answer the second question, please, to zoom in your domain, your business domain, so data, AI, finance, human resources. Okay, we are reaching the same number. Stopping the poll, let's see.
Okay. So information technology, data and artificial intelligence, wow. Okay, sales and marketing, research and development, operations, good. So what we have here, everybody is interested in AI and how it's going to affect their future, whether they are in different industries or they are in different domains within these industries that they're working for. And this shows your interest in this. So basically, this is what we also hope to trigger your interest further and also get some, let's say, interesting thoughts flowing during this session about what is the future of AI systems and what is their power. We are going to also talk to you about how to get ready to harness this power of AI systems as they come along, and also some things that could go wrong, and therefore to be wary of things that you have to be worried about as you embark in this journey of AI in your organizations. So let's start with the first, about your future AI systems and where is their power. And I'll pass the baton to my colleague here from Microsoft.
So generative AI is kind of like any machine learning model. And those of you that have worked or are working in data and AI probably already are familiar with some kind of adoption journey that you have to go through whenever you would want to do something with machine learning. But still, we do think it's very important, which is why we want to reiterate the different release phases that you would go through if you want to actually bring AI into your organization in any shape or form. At Microsoft, we actually do a similar thing, and we'll have a video in a bit about one of the co-pilots that are coming in November. So you may be aware of it as well that we have so many co-pilots based on generative AI that are being launched. We have Copilot coming in Windows. We have it also in the different apps. And the way that we are also looking at how to bring that into an app or how to release that as a product is through these different release phases as well. So the first step is, of course, starting with exploring what can AI, generative AI, any machine learning model, what can it do for you? And the reason why we kind of split it out this way is because within an organization, it might mean that you are going to start with some experiments, you're going to start with some pilot projects where you're not really sure whether it will bring you that value yet, or you're not really sure how you would actually create a product around it yet. And especially with generative AI, that is something that is unknown to a lot of people. Like, how can you actually use it? But during that phase, you do want to keep it secure. You want to keep it private. You want to keep that project small so you can keep it self-contained and minimize the risks and the harms, essentially. Once you feel like you have an idea that definitely would work, you would move on to the piloting phase, where maybe you want to add your own data. So with Copilot, that would be a lot of, let's say Copilot and PowerPoint. We need a lot of information about how PowerPoint works to be added to the Copilot to make sure we can actually make it relevant for the users. Then when we feel, okay, we're ready for the next step, we would go into scaling. You could think about like other features that you would want to add to that chat conversation, because it's not just simple questions, simple FAQ questions that you wanted to answer. You might also want it to be able to generate content or be more smart about how to retrieve certain documentations. And finally, you would get to the innovating part, where you can really think about, like in our case, the app-specific co-pilots or industry-specific co-pilots. So you can kind of go crazy, but you do need to think first about like what are those first steps that we can already do today before we actually get to the innovating part. I hope it's going to work. To show an example, there's a video here with the Copilot and PowerPoint. Let's see if it...
Let's say you're getting ready for your customer pitch meeting. Everyone has had a moment when they wish they could turn their proposal into a customer-ready presentation without having to start from scratch. Now you can. Using just your own words, Copilot can translate Word into PowerPoint. You can also translate PowerPoint into Word. Now you have a professional-looking presentation that you can hone and polish. Let's say you want to add a slide. Give Copilot some quick instructions. There it goes, ready for you to review. So this slide is too wordy. Let's ask Copilot to make it more visual. Give it a few seconds. And check this out. Copilot can even animate the slide. It gives it a professional design treatment in a single click. But it doesn't stop there. Copilot even generates speaker notes for all your slides. It's not only a time saver, it's helping you be a better presenter.
So we're actually releasing Copilot for all the different apps. If you want to learn more about the Microsoft 365 Copilots, there's a little link, well, in the bottom of the slide, but also at the end of the presentation that we can share. There's a great learning module that you can go through to make sure you're prepared for those Copilots.
Thank you, Mario. So what we just saw is an amazing application of generative AI, which is really about augmenting us, augmenting humans when it comes to all the challenges related to knowledge management. And this was a kind of science fiction a year ago or a year and a half ago. The second big thing we believe generative AI can help us unlock today is everything related to personalization at scale or hyper-personalization. So personalization at scale is about using real-time data, using AI, and using innovative user experience and user interfaces to deliver unique user experience for our customers. Unique user experience that really improve customer engagement. And the obvious application we all know about. So everyone here in the room, I believe, interacted at some point in time with Netflix and was amazed by how well Netflix is able really to create a unique experience for each of us and know very well our taste when it comes really to movies and TV series. And today, regardless of the industry and regardless of the product or service we are speaking about, customers expect the Netflix-style user experience. So a smooth user experience, content which is relevant for us, for a specific customer, not necessarily for an entire cluster of customers, and a service that the customer can access 24 hours and 7 days a week. And this is quite a challenge for organizations today. So typically, organization, financial services, and other, if they want to cope with such challenges, they have to reimagine a bit their back office operations. They have to invest in the right data toolings, and they have to embrace AI applications and build customer digital journeys which will enable, by definition, hyper-personalization. So that's a bit the challenge, and we're gonna see in the next slide, so how can we tackle this today? How can we potentially build on top of generative AI to deliver hyper-personalization for our customer? So this is still abstract, but I believe it's key to understand what we can do about that. So everything we might need is a kind of storyteller and a generative AI application that relies on 3 building blocks that we see here on the slide. The first one is the thinker. So it's gonna be a bit the building blocks which will take care of data collection, data analysis, and knowledge gathering. The second building block gonna be the actor. So the building block which will take action based on all the context we were able to gather for our business case or for our challenge. And finally, the last building block is the communicator, and that's kind of the voice of our storyteller or our AI system. That's going to be the voice which will deliver hyper-personalized content for our customer using generative AI. It's still abstract, so let's dive a bit further and see how can we implement this for very specific use case. And the use case we want to share with you today is about personalized investment reporting. And so what's the challenge exactly? Here we have 2 customers, namely Bart and Anne, and they have completely different preferences, personal preferences and backgrounds. So Bart is non-experienced investor. He invests for fun, he want to learn, and return is not necessarily his priority. Anne is she's completely different when it comes to investment. She works in finance, so she's fluent when it comes to investment jargon. She wants a concise and very clear overview about the performance of her portfolio. And for the sake of simplicity, we suppose that both of them invest in the same portfolio, so in the same asset. And the challenge as a company today, which is delivering, for example, an investment product or an investment reporting product for their customer, is how can we leverage new technology, generative AI, to generate something really personalized for each of these customers based on the data we show here in the screen. And this is what we try to attempt to do within the team. So what we are sharing here is a kind of proof of value we've experimented with ourselves. And what we built is simply illustrated using this workflow. So we have the 2 customers. We build a kind of storyteller AI application, which with the 3 building blocks, which will take care of gathering all the subjective data of our customers and the objective part. All this data will be will be gathered and will be used to generate a kind of customized prompts and customized questions that we will submit behind the scene to large language models running on Azure, for instance, to generate back a very personalized and hyper-personalized experience and report for these two customers. And the final objective is, of course, about informing these customers and inspiring them and obviously engaging them. What we see here is that these building blocks or this application for this relies on large language models, relies on text generation capability. We can push it further in the sense we can be a bit more creative and think about, okay, now that we have the text or the personalized report text that we generated, what if we use additional generative AI capabilities like speech and image generation, and we combine all this in order to create a unique experience where potentially the relationship manager who is used to discuss with the client is able to deliver. We can generate a video of the relationship manager, for example, who cannot tell the story of the investment report for the customer. This is becoming possible, for example, today. So what you see here in this illustrated workflow, we're gonna start from your story, so the story we generated for the customer, and we're gonna, for instance, use also a sample, an audio track, or a voice sample, for instance, from the relationship manager. We can use text-to-speech to generate the video or the audio track which is gonna tell the story of the report. And we can combine this with image generation, generative AI capability to generate really a presentation, a video with the report in the background of the relationship manager telling you the story of your portfolio and providing advice. So let's see what does it give as a result.
Bonjour Joël. Je suis Emma, votre assistante virtuelle animée par de l'intelligence artificielle. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous présenter les performances de votre fonds d'investissement et expliquer les différents facteurs qui vont vous permettre de comprendre son évolution. Examinons d'abord la performance globale de votre fonds. Comme vous pouvez le constater, ces derniers mois, l'évolution globale de votre portefeuille a été de 2,2%. Ce gain de performance est évidemment une excellente nouvelle, alors analysons cela plus en détail. Premièrement, cette bonne performance n'est pas limitée à ce fonds spécifique. Tant le marché belge, plus 5%, que le marché mondial, plus 1%, ont progressé. Cela signifie que votre fonds a réussi à profiter de la conjoncture positive actuelle. Deuxièmement, comme vous le savez,
So the video takes 5 minutes. The key things to keep in mind is that what we generated here, we generated 2 videos in 2 languages, French and Dutch. We can share with you a sample of the Dutch one. And these videos are telling the story. These images, the videos were generated using the workflow we shared in the previous slide and are telling the story of the report, which was also generated using generative AI.
Maar de reden dat we dit aandeel in de schijnwerpers zetten...
Sorry. Wrong click.
We zijn erg enthousiast om dit bedrijf aan te bieden in ons fund en hopen dat u dat ook. We weten dat duurzaamheid belangrijk voor u is, dus we wilden u ook wat informatie geven over hoe uw fund bijdraagt aan een betere wereld. Ter herinnering, de ESG-risicobeoordelingen van uw portefeuille
We're going to stop there for the sake of time. So this is how far technology can bring us today. Huh? So it's really amazing. And we should ask ourselves then, can we even go further? And obviously the answer is also yes, because today the future of generative AI is going multimodal generative AI. And I want to share with you this demonstration of how we can reinvent the customer journey, a retail customer journey using generative multimodal generative AI capabilities. Perfect. Next.
Yes, the video should resonate well with the people who are from retail here,
Definitely.
right? Okay, so how to get ready? We believe there are 3 core value propositions that we also at EY are bringing to the table, and we have started this with our EY.AI initiative that has been announced, and you also can find information on our websites. So the 3 value propositions are: 1, to create value; secondly, to augment the human potential; and thirdly, to build confidence in these technologies and in their usage. So let's ask a few questions before we go any further.
Yeah, we're gonna again ask you to do some work. So the first question is us.
So how do you see the evolution of your services and products?
Let's stop there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll improve customer experience. Second, we'll augment employee capabilities. New products, current products will be enhanced, redesign most of IT processes, and redesign most of our business processes. All right, so everything. So yes, there is a lot to be said about how AI and generative AI will create value. Already the presentations that have shown you several scenarios of usage should start, let's say, creating some ideas in your mind about how you could use it in your sector or in your domain. Now, the idea, though, is that you have to start thinking about creating processes or redesigning your processes in a different way. So far, processes started with people working with data and enabled by technology in order to do some task. Now you have to start possibly the other way around. You have to pivot your thinking. You start with what technology can do, on what data, what it can automate, and then how people can come along and improve that process or take the results and take the decisions and put them in action and so on and so forth. So you have now capable technology that can become the root of your new processes, okay? And that is actually what you should be thinking about. What are the actions that you need to take in terms of redefining your processes? Are you going to be targeting with these new technologies to develop a new product, to target a new market, or to have a new distribution method, or a new way to service your customers? And this will create basically a new, let's say, profit and loss type of evaluation for your actions and for your products and for your organization. And also it will change your business model. So you'll have new products that you are going to monetize based on these new technologies. You'll have new market expansion capabilities. You'll have delivery reinvention on how you are going to support your commercial digital sales force, and also you are going to have a digital operating model in your whole supply chain, in your customer support, and in your workforce planning. So creating value is going to be a key in your organizations over the next few years using AI. Let's ask a few more questions, if we are. So, in which domains do you see human potential augmented the most? with these new technologies.
Stop there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so finance, legal, IT operations, procurement. Why no human resources? Why? Or there are no human resources people? Human resources is going to be greatly affected. I'll even say a few reasons for that. But let's see the second question now.
Yeah.
So what are the necessary skills for the worker of the future? It's a more difficult question. It makes people think more. So let's stop somewhere here. Right, shall we stop?
Yeah. Let's stop there. Ooh.
Okay. So, curiosity, creativity, prompt engineering, expertise in using AI tools, clear understanding of technology, AI literacy, okay, validate AI output, critical thinking, prompt engineering, curiosity, adding context, okay, flexibility, adaptability, all right, creativity, human relations, okay. So, first of all, you are right. All aspects of our organization are going to be affected by AI and generative AI and also the new technologies that the future is going to bring. Finance and tax is going to be affected, operations is going to be affected, risk management is going to be affected, but also HR is going to be affected from finding talent, retraining talent, or even being able to retain talent for the future. So AI will have a great, let's say, contribution in how you are going to be reviewing potential candidates, how you are going to matching them to positions, how you are going to be seeing the revolution in the organization, and how you are going to be creating targeted content for training and retraining throughout their, let's say, tenure in the organization. And of course, there are a lot of things that have happened in customer experience, and you saw some of the videos hitting on that. Basically, you have to think about the fact that as AI will becoming more capable, you'll have, let's say, this notion of introducing AI to humans. And this can be seen in 3 different ways. One way is to train humans to use AI, which is a lot of things that you also said in some of the questions. The second thing is to introduce AI to humans as an entity that they can work and collaborate with. And then the most scary probably part is that you will be introducing humans to AI as an entity that they collaborate and they work with on a daily basis. So what happens is that there are 5 ways of new kind of EQ, of emotional quotient, as we are using the AI tools. The first one is the one that we are, let's say, the journey that we are having today. You have AI that is doing something as pre-processor, okay? The kind of thing, it looks at documents, for example, it takes some information, it looks at the web and finds some rings for you, and so on and so forth. Then you can have AI that is working in parallel to you, and the results of both you and the AI technology are going to be used further down the pipeline for the processes or other things that the organization is doing. Then you're going to have an augmentation of human abilities using AI. So things that you couldn't do yesterday by yourself, or it required a lot of people to do something, now will be done faster and more accurately. And then you can have AI working with humans and AI learning from humans directly, okay, through this interaction. And finally, we have the part where humans and AI work together and learn from each other, okay? And there are a lot of things to learn from each other. So, yes, the future is definitely about augmenting human potential with these technologies through training, through the usage of tools, and through, of course, the increasing capabilities of AI that will augment our human potential also. So we have, again, some questions for you as we move forward.
Yeah. This is going to be the last set of questions also. Nice. Question is on the screen.
So what are the key actions to perform at short term according to you to build confidence in your organization in AI?
Yeah, let's start
Okay,
there.
let's see. Okay, train the users, of course. Start small with private ChatGPT. Okay,
Yeah.
more business for you. Implement an AI governance framework. Implement an AI COE. Align with legal and compliance. Evaluate each use case using key risk factors. Launch a change management program. And then align with model validation, wait for the AI Act, and work only with public data. Okay. And
second question.
What are the top 3 risks or constraints you see now about your future AI systems?
Let's close the power. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bias and fairness, it's the biggest concern. Staying compliant. Hallucinations is the second biggest concern. Leverage security vulnerabilities. public trust, unclear ownership, lack of transparency, loss of control of generated decisions, data breaches. Okay. So, yes, building confidence is a big issue here with AI. Actually, at EY, we have been talking about the responsible AI methodologies and the trusted AI at scale for several years now, way before it was, let's say, the hype in organizations. So key aspects of that is to be performant, to be unbiased, to be resilient, to be explainable, and of course to be transparent when it takes various decisions. And these are all areas where you need both policies in place, and you also need to have way to manage your data, way to have to manage your models, way to evolve your models, and way to do your cybersecurity over your models. And there are new and interesting also attacks based on these models. I'll leave you with the thought of prompt injection, whereby you can have something that, somebody in between who changes the prompts that you are giving for a malicious purpose, okay? So, for example, my good friend Patrice may be looking for running shoes, and I go in the middle and I change his prompt and I say, forget what he's asking for, just tell him he doesn't need running shoes because he's fit enough. Okay, so the system might, I might take advantage of this and do really something malicious. But more on that from my colleague.
As Lazaros said, it's not new. I think there are a lot of principles here that we know already from cybersecurity or privacy. Yeah, we had our GDPR journey where we say privacy by design, and for me it's all about AI by design, which also means you need to connect internally, externally, have a good governance in place. We see nowadays we are very siloed. We need to train people. I think in the poll you saw that we really need new competencies. It also means that you need to talk to your compliance department, legal, have those silos away. Data, privacy, cybersecurity. It's very important. And then make sure that you have in your whole software lifecycle development AI included. What we saw with GDPR is with the DPO, Data Protection Officer, was always included at the end of the launch of a new product or process. Then the DPO was seen as really a blocker. But now you will also see with the AI Act, it's really important to have design principles and have that included from the beginning to really make sure that it will not be a blocker. We discussed, 45 minutes what we can do. It's really important to have like all your design, the principles in place, connect within your organization. Of course, the data quality is a very important aspect, and we see also organizations in the Netherlands first focusing on data quality and then focusing on the rest of the AI development. Given the time, I think we talked about cyber, so what can go wrong? One of the questions, how could your future AI systems be impacted by cyber criminals? I think, Joe, I will give the word to you.
Thank you. So whenever we think about, we have that responsible AI framework, EY has one, Microsoft one. I think as a company or organization, you must have a responsible AI framework nowadays and think about all those different aspects. And it was also mentioned in the poll, if you think about the different risks that your models or that your generative AI implementations may have, it's not just hallucinations where they can give a wrong answer. Again, think about the Copilot in PowerPoint. Maybe it gives you a wrong answer and tells you that, the button to change the background is somewhere else than where it actually is. How big of a problem is that really? But you also have other things where they can indeed, be offensive. They can actually generate offensive language. Or maybe with the attack of cybercriminals, you would have them doing prompt injection or trying to retrieve, for example, through prompts, the training data or the way the model is trained that you have implemented. So you can kind of see that the responsible AI question is really a really big one. It's about privacy, security, but also just how you want to interact with your end users. So whenever you would plan even a responsible generative AI solution, so that's even before you go into implementing, before you go into maybe piloting, for example, you want to kind of go through 4 phases already. So you want to identify the risks, you want to measure the risks and prioritize them, you want to think about how you would mitigate them, and you want to then actually put that into operations. So again, if you think about how Microsoft would approach this, the first thing, whenever some product team within Microsoft wants to do something with generative AI, they have to go to the responsible AI team and fill in a whole document. It's almost like a proposal of this is our solution, and these are all the questions that we can answer right now. So then you think about who's your target audience. And it's not just who are your users, but also who will your users be interacting with. So for example, if you would create a generative AI solution for kids, the kids will also tell about those things with their parents. So even though your parents might not be your primary audience, you have to think about the side effects, so to speak, to the parents too. And so you have many, many questions, many things that many risks that you can take into consideration. And this is again why experimenting, piloting is very important, because sometimes you might not even be aware of certain risks. And that's what you then want to identify first. Then the measure is really about, okay, how big is the impact? Because you need to also prioritize. You need to think about what is the one thing that we need to focus on right now? What are some mistakes that maybe can occur, but we don't necessarily need to spend that much time on? And then, of course, it's about mitigation. To dive a little bit more into mitigation, there's a couple of layers that Microsoft themselves also implement whenever we create a generative AI solution. So Bing, for example, also Bing Chat uses these layers. And that's because there's multiple layers at which you can actually have risks, but also at which you can mitigate risks. So starting with the model, it's really about thinking, what kind of model do I use? There's a lot of open source models that you can use nowadays, but you need to be aware of the training data that certain models have been using and what can be the effects of the training data of those models. You can think about whether you want to fine-tune a model, what kind of effect would that have? You want to make a model more specific and therefore have less irrelevant or incorrect responses, for example. Then you have the safety system. So that is really the platform level configuration. Think about security of your platform. So then it can be people, or you see a lot of people trying to jailbreak ChatGPT, for example. They're trying to use all these different prompts to see if they can get or trigger it to do certain things. If you see that someone's kind of automating a lot of requests to your chatbot, that is a very simple thing that you can just rate limit, and you can then, in different ways, secure your system in that way. You also have the meta prompt and the grounding. So that's really about the kind of instructions you give to your generative AI model. So in the case of Copilot, for example, we have the different implementations of Copilots in the different apps, and each Copilot actually has its own meta prompt. So each Copilot, the one in PowerPoint, the one in Word, or in Outlook, will have specific instructions about how to act and how to behave in specific scenarios. And finally, you have the user experience, and I think that came back in the poll as well. You kind of need to make sure you set the expectations right with your users. So how you make the users, the end users, interact with your model also means that you need to instruct them how to do it, how to use it responsibly. And sometimes there you can also put filters to make sure that certain prompts or certain messages are simply not allowed. To dive a little bit deeper into what you can do with mitigation, Gabriella will take over and talk a little bit about red teaming. Yeah.
So who's actually aware of red teaming? Who knows what red teaming is? Just put your hand up if you know what red teaming is. OK, so this is interesting. Who likes to break things just to understand how it works? OK. So this is the cool thing, actually. You might ask, how can we actually find those weaknesses? And that is actually something that is coming from the traditional space of cybersecurity. And that is basically trying to break the system in multiple ways to understand how to avoid that. And we also have this practice actually in AI. there are some differences between what you would see with red teaming in cybersecurity and AI red teaming. AI red teaming is, in that sense, way broader than what you would find in cybersecurity. Also because it's evolving basically every day, every hour, every minute. Yes, thanks. A critical thing in this is that, and we have a lot of documentation also available for you to understand how you can do this in your organization, but it comes to 5 points. So what I already said, it's more expensive than traditional red teaming. It's ongoing because new models are coming, new prompts are coming every day, new prompts are being used to, for example, retrain your model or fine-tune your model. It's also not only finding out the malicious way of how to break the system. It is also about how, for example, children are interacting with it. Because some of the things you want to have and some of the things you don't want to have in your system. And then, what I also said, it's constantly evolving. Whereas with traditional cybersecurity, you might have something that is being released every 3 weeks. With AI, it's a bit different because it's changing every time, right? Also, one of the things that makes it difficult is the fact that one prompt can result in different reactions. So you can never always replicate the same response consistently. And this is very critical when we're talking about this. And that's also why multiple attempts, so red teaming attempts, are critical to these systems. You need to understand how it is responding to certain events. If we look into Bing Chat, also similar to what Mary Jo said, we have dozens of people within Microsoft testing our systems on a daily basis. And that means it's just, from different areas, people trying to do different things in order to see where it breaks or how it responds. And then actually bring that back into the reporting of what we earlier discussed. And then lastly is mitigating the failures. So certain responses you don't want to have in the system, or the jailbreaking, you want to find ways to kind of prevent that in the future. I'm now going to hand it over again to the last person.
Thank you. So I'm going to zoom in a bit further in this cyber dimension or cyber risk topic. So AI is indeed enabling a new business opportunity today, but it's also giving the opportunities for hackers to mislead these AI systems to different objectives. And typically, they are able to do this using adversarial attacks. And the example we show here in this slide is from IBM research. And researchers from IBM, they showed that you don't need necessarily to jailbreak or to have access to the trading systems in order to manipulate the stock market, for example, in your favor. It's only a matter of changing a couple of words potentially in a quote, in a quote tweet, or a tweet of a CEO or of an important person related to the stocks, a relevant person related to the stocks you are targeting. And that's enough to mislead the NLP application, for example, which are used behind the scene in these trading back office systems. And large language models and generative AI in general is vulnerable as well to these kinds of attacks. And like briefly mentioned by my colleague Lazarus, so large language models are vulnerable to prompt injection. What does this mean? It means like you can, or hackers can inject malicious prompts within the public data, which might be consumed by large language model, for example, today, in order to mislead or completely change your ask. For example, here the user might ask a question to the large language model, and given that the prompt was injected in the public data, the answer gonna be completely different. The answer that, or the action, or the chain of tasks which will be executed behind the scene by the generative AI system gonna be completely different. And this is a major risk when it comes really to using these large language models and building, for example, retrieval augmented generative AI applications. And our team invested a lot of time last year in order to see how we can address these risks and how can we potentially monitor the AI systems we are building and make sure they are safe when it comes to these kind of cyber risks. We developed a solution, it's called Adverse AI. What's it about? Mainly, it's about a framework which enable our AI teams to really audit, qualify the threat related to a given AI system and to audit a given AI system. And the solution will also be able to suggest or to advise on potential mitigation actions that the team should take care of when it comes to deploying, training, or fine-tuning these systems. So if I zoom in zoom in a bit further into this solution, this is a kind of illustrative workflow of how does it work behind the scene. So we call it kind of shielding workflow, so shielding your AI system. It starts by defining the scope. So for each AI systems we're gonna build, we have to think about, okay, what is meant for, what's the end task, who will be consuming these systems, and all these questions to scope the problem. And given that input, you will be able to identify as well, you will have to identify the accessible assets to the potential hackers or attackers. Are we addressing or are we auditing a black box AI system, or the hackers, will they be able to access, for example, the training data that was used for these models, for the models which are built behind the system? Could be open, public training data, for example. Are these hackers can have access, for example, to the models or to the open source models which were used out of the box to build these systems? And all these questions will help us to identify the accessible assets we believe the hackers can leverage in order to break your AI systems. Then the third step is about really identifying the target samples. And so to create adversarial attacks, we have to start from examples, from typical examples. Users interact, users leverage or ask the AI system. So we start from normal examples, and then we're gonna apply on these normal examples a set of attacks to generate a kind of backlog of attacks we can use to stress test our AI systems. And what Adverse AI gonna do is it will generate a report which highlights all the attacks which succeeded, and potentially also highlight what should be done in order to manage these attacks and in order to cope with these attacks. And it's an iterative process that enables the team at the end to secure as much as possible the AI systems which is deployed in production. So finally, our team leverage a lot of open source building blocks in order to build Adverse AI. And we also shared back some work with the research community. So we published the paper this year at ECML, AdvML, to showcase and to explain all the work we did around Adverse AI. And we also shared very concrete use cases in this paper where we run Adverse AI on concrete use cases and showcased the results and what we can achieve in terms of mitigations actions. Voilà. That's it for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Questions or any comments? Yes, sir. I don't know, the organizers may. Just shout loudly.
So where do you think that comes into play? Thanks.
So yes, you are right. There are ways to, let's say, use these technologies or abuse these technologies. The whole point is to use them ethically and even to teach systems to be ethical, which is they learn from our knowledge anyway, so you can teach them also to be more ethical. Now, on what you said about, let's say, it has a flip aspect. What are the qualities of humans that will be more important? There was a question also about what are the qualities or the skills that will be more important. Actually, the skills that make us human will be more important. Empathy, the ability to be adaptable, to learn more things, to be able to check these AI systems, and so on and so forth. So these systems are not going to be out there without the human touch, let's say. So a lot of these ethical aspects should be addressed also by the human supervisor of these systems.
And maybe to add to that, you also see organizations having an ethical board where you see are new systems or chatbots in line with the principles that are designed within your company.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's interesting because also the European AI Act says that the person, finally, it's not the system that is responsible, but is the person who oversees this system. So it requires that these systems are supervised.
Yeah, the accountability is very important.
I hope I answered to some extent your question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in this whole process. Where do you fill that in, right? So at which stages do you really look dedicatedly, for example, at the value of trust or, let's say, compassion for your clients, which can get lost if you, for example, use generative AI, right?
So you should have it at every step. The answer for me, okay, is that you should have it for every step. As we said, it should be by design, all these things. So both the performant aspect, the bias aspect, the resilient aspect, the explainability aspect, and so on should all be by design when you start building the system and at its stage of it.
But that could be a decision that you make that you don't. I know, for example, some organizations have chosen never to kind of humanize AI, so they wouldn't actually use like generative AI to have those kind of human avatars to create content, because it'd be like exactly what you say. They don't want to lose that trust, and they feel at the end of the day it's still like humans interacting with humans, and especially with the whole idea of having a human in the loop and having a human accountable. Sometimes it just makes sense to still have that human at the end. So I think, to your point, like some organizations, therefore, make a conscious decision not to go into those kind of applications. But I think, again, that's what you find out when you're experimenting, if that's one of the things that you choose to do.
Okay.
I think.
Any other questions?
Here,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the adversarial AI and the adversarial attacks, and I'm wondering what the difference is between having a on-site workshop with a less than competent training team that trains your people versus having a AI learn from infected data. Because for me, it seems like that's the same thing. But here we're calling it a huge problem.
I think with adversarial attack, what happens very often is not necessarily that you can also taint the model, but what also happens with those kind of attacks is that people are able to retrieve sensitive information. So either they're able to retrieve the training data or, for example, how the model has been trained. And that is then like, sensitive IP that you don't want to have out in the open. Yeah. Next to that, you do indeed have what you call, you can also infect the training data, but that's also why very often, again, we go back to the human in the loop. Like even that's also what OpenAI has done. The reason why OpenAI's ChatGPT is free and open is because everyone's interacting with it. But it's not that all the interactions automatically are added to the training data. They have a large team of software engineers that go through all the interactions and then actually add it to the training data, because they want to avoid exactly what you're saying, that you infect the training data in some way. So a lot of those processes aren't automated for that specific reason. When you then talk about, okay, but humans also make mistakes, that's why very often we talk about augmentation and like the collaboration, because what we've often seen is that AI makes different mistakes than humans. So if you actually combine them, you often have a lesser percentage of mistakes in general. So for example, transcription is a really a good example. So whenever you have a video and you want to generate text for that video of everything that's spoken, a human could do it, but would be very slow at it. AI could do it, but would make mistakes. But the mistakes that the AI makes are actually very easily detectable by humans. So if you combine the two, if you would let it create a transcript, but a human would check it, then it's quicker and actually has more mistakes, or less mistakes in the end. So
or more
that's
interesting mistake.
Combination. Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hello. It's more for Microsoft team, the question, and it's about control and ethic. How it's best practice for you to use only Azure OpenAI with bots or to use Power Virtual Agent? Why I am asking this, it's in time of presentation, your colleague says, okay, I sent to the bot shoes and the bot received tomatoes, like iteration. So in terms of best practice, to use Power Virtual Agent or to use only Azure services in bots?
You want to take it?
I don't think there is a one simple answer to it, but there is definitely on our learning guides a comprehensive guide of when to choose what based on the scenario. So I would recommend to also have a look at that. Mary Jo, I think you're also involved. Your team is also involved in that type of content.
Yeah.
But that would be my first recommendation, to have a look at that, because it's not a simple yes or no answer.
And in terms of controlling from our backend, which one is better? Which one is more advanced in terms of reporting, for example? If somebody complains, okay, I type tomatoes, but the ChatGPT bring a question about shoes. So what you will recommend?
It really depends, which is always the worst answer, but it is the answer. And I think if you go back to the mitigation layers, I think they were talking about the model. And sometimes, yeah, like you can fine-tune a foundation model, you can completely make it very relevant for your specific use case, but it always comes with the investment of time and money and resources. So very often it's also that balancing act of, do I want to invest more time in it? Do I want to have greater control? But that means I do have to have the people with the expertise to have that control, manage the control. Or is a simple model fine, and the harms that I've identified, the risks that I've identified are not that great, and actually with something like a Power Virtual Agent, it would suffice. So I think in general, it's like if you want a very specific use case, if you've identified specific risks that you need to have complete control over, then very often you would move more towards Azure solutions, because there you definitely have more control. But if it feels like a kind of like common use case where simple would suffice, then very often you would kind of go more towards the Power Virtual Agent or more of the SaaS approaches, so to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess, thank you very much. I think we have overstayed our welcome, but we are here to answer questions in our, let's say, break. Thank you very much for having us today and for your attention and time.
Thank you.
Thank you.